We were just now talking about omni-channels. So in omni-channels, story consistency across the platforms become extremely important. In today's world, in a fragmented media ecosystem, consumers start encountering brands in pieces. Something like an Instagram reel, a blog article, or suddenly a YouTube film, or a podcast conversation happening somewhere, right? Or if I walk into a store, suddenly there is an in-store experience. The point is, if each of these touch points tells slightly a different story, then the brand fractures. Suddenly the cracks develop in the brand. Remember, story consistency is not repetition. It is alignment to the platform that is being used. So if I get into a little more detail, learners, about what is story consistency, it refers to maintaining a coherent, a similar narrative identity across all communication channels while adapting the format and tone to platform-specific requirements. Now to do this, we must have 3 levels which should remain stable across, let us say, Instagram, YouTube, podcasts and everything. First one is ideological consistency. We have been talking about this in multiple videos because it is extremely important. Core values of any brand does not shift. Purpose has to remain unchanged in a particular story narrative. There has to be emotional consistency. The dominant emotion tone must be easily recognizable. Is the brand empowering the people? Or is it being nostalgic? Or is it being rebellious in the market and telling I am the best? What is it trying to tell? The tone needs to be understood. Third, the visual and symbolic consistency. The logos, the color codes, the typography, the spokesperson, the repeated motifs, these have to remain consistent. Otherwise, if there is an unpredictable shift, the consumer memory weakens, isn't it? Different colors, different fonts, different people in different platforms, the story is lost in the sea. What can change in that case? Consistency does not mean absolute sameness. So what can change? The content length can change. It can be 30 seconds on Instagram, whereas it can be 30 minutes on YouTube, right? The formats can change. It can be video, it can be just audio, it can be just text in a blog. The depth of the explanation obviously will change. In 30 seconds, it's drama. In 30 minutes, it's a story, full-fledged story. The expression has to keep evolving. Let's take the essence of the global perspective of who? None other than Apple. All of us love Apple, right? What is the narrative core for Apple? Simplicity, creativity, human-centric innovation. So in Instagram, what does Apple show? Minimalistic product visuals, very clean aesthetics. Whereas on YouTube, the product launch films emphasizing design philosophy in itself is shown over, let us say, 15 to 20 minutes. On the website, technical clarity, all features are presented, but in a very simplistic language. But in retail stores, clean architecture, clean minimalistic design, reflecting the design ethos of any Apple product. The tone is not loud, it is very restrained. The design language is very minimal, whereas the brand voice is calm but very confident. Platforms may shift, identity does not shift. Apple remains Apple, whether it is Instagram, YouTube or blog. Let's take a very colorful Indian perspective, Sabyasachi designs. What is his narrative? Heritage, Indian opulence, cultural nostalgia. So on his Instagram, you will consistently see bridal portraits with regal aesthetics, royal aesthetics. Whereas the store interiors have vintage furniture, beautiful storytelling, beautiful pieces of pottery. But the website is very romantic copywriting, referencing to the Indian traditions. Where do you see Sabyasachi? You see Sabyasachi at celebrity weddings. So the reinforcement of the grandeur and exclusivity which was built up in the website, in the store, gets expressed there. But the mood remains consistent, royal, timeless, deeply rooted in Indian culture. Even when adapting to contemporary audiences, the heritage narrative remains perfectly intact for Sabyasachi. It just does not change. Thereby, what happens? It builds brand recall. Consistency strengthens neural associations. If you go back to module 1, right, you will see that we have spoken so much about our neural systems, cognitive systems. It enhances, once again, trust. It creates cognitive understanding, but inconsistency will fragment the entire thing. It strengthens positioning. Luxury brands, luxury positioning, non-luxury brands, their own positioning in the market. It reduces strategic drift, friction in our minds. It reduces that completely if there is consistency. It also ensures marketing teams operate within a defined narrative boundary. So the marketing teams cannot talk anything that they want. They have to remain within a said boundary. Remember, a brand is not what it says once. It is what it says repeatedly, clearly and recognizably. People must recognize just by a look that this is Sabyasachi, right? In an omni-channel world, consistency is strategic discipline. It is a matter of strategic marketing discipline. Without it, storytelling becomes noise. But with it, with the strategic discipline, it becomes the brand's identity in today's clustered competitive market. I would like all of you to think about what we are speaking in the last 10-12 minutes. I would urge you to write down these points and share it in the discussion room. Question number 1. Can a brand change its tone, let us say, between LinkedIn and Instagram? If it can change, to what extent can it change? Second question, what happens if a luxury brand becomes overtly humorous? Too much of a humor in a luxury brand. Third question, does tactical promotion, transactional promotion, we did it in the last module, let us say discount messaging and everything, will it weaken the story consistency? I want all of you who are listening to this video, write down the answers to these 3 very, very typical questions with regard to whether a story narrative must remain consistent or not. Write it down. Share it in the discussion room, and I shall meet you there. Till we meet in the next video.